There is a strength the world cannot touch, a strength that doesn't beg for attention, a strength that doesn't rise and fall with people's moods, a strength that stays standing when everything and everyone walks away. I'm talking about a different kind of strength, the kind that grows in silence, when nobody is clapping for you, when nobody is watching, when excuses have nowhere to hide. Most men fear solitude for one reason. Solitude reveals who you really are, and that truth can feel brutal. When you're alone, you can't perform. You can't blame your mood on the room. You can't copy the energy of other people. You can't borrow confidence from attention. It's just you and the truth. And that truth can feel brutal, because solitude doesn't only show your power, it exposes your weakness too. It shows you the habits you keep dodging, the goals you keep talking about but never touch, the emotions you keep burying under noise, the fake identity you built just to fit in. That's why most men stay busy. They fill every empty moment with noise. They stay surrounded. They keep relationships they don't even respect because loneliness feels safer than self-honesty. But society lies to you. It teaches you that being alone is a problem, that connection is safety, that approval equals value, that if you're not constantly seen, you don't matter. And that lie creates weak men. But the real masters of power, they understood something different. They understood that solitude is not abandonment. Solitude is preparation. It is where weak identities collapse and unbreakable men are forged. Because in solitude, you're not distracted by what people think. You're not controlled by emotional dependency. You stop chasing validation like a hungry dog. You start seeing patterns. You start thinking clearly. You start moving with control instead of craving. Solitude teaches you to stand without support, to decide without permission, to build without applause. And once a man learns that, he becomes dangerous in the best way. In this video, you're going to learn 7 dark power lessons about solitude that most men will never understand. How isolation builds mental dominance, how it forges emotional independence, how it gives you strategic control over your life and future. Stay with me, because when you understand this, you will stop fearing being alone and you'll start using solitude like a weapon. Before we go deeper, I want you to drop this affirmation in the comments. Write it down. Say it out loud. Silence makes me strong. Post it right now while you're thinking about it, because the first step to change is committing to it publicly. Now let's dive in. The first dark power lesson is this: solitude reveals the hidden version of you, the person you are around others. That's not actually you. That's a performance. That's a costume. That's a character you play to survive social situations. Think about it. You laugh when you don't find things funny. You agree when you don't actually agree. You hide opinions that might make people uncomfortable. You smile through conversations that bore you to death. Why? Because humans are social creatures, and we've learned to adapt. We mirror. We adjust. We bend ourselves into shapes that fit the group. We become chameleons just to feel like we belong. But here's the problem with that. When you spend all your time performing, you forget who you actually are. You lose touch with your real thoughts, your real desires, your real instincts. Your authentic self gets buried under layers of expectations and fake smiles. The version of you that people see at work, at parties, with your family, with your friends. That's not the real you. That's the version you've trained yourself to be. But in solitude, something different happens. Solitude strips away performance. No audience, no validation, no mask. In isolation, a completely different version of you emerges. Calmer under pressure, colder in decision-making, ruthless when necessary. This version is not shaped by comfort or applause. It is shaped by clarity. Think about the last time you were truly alone for days, not just a few hours, not just an evening. I mean days without seeing anyone, without talking to anyone, without the pressure to be on, without the need to impress anyone. What happened? At first, it probably felt uncomfortable, maybe even scary. The silence was too loud. Your thoughts were too honest. You noticed things about yourself you'd been avoiding for months, maybe even years. But if you stayed in that space long enough, something shifted. You stopped caring what imaginary people thought. You stopped rehearsing conversations in your head before you had them. You stopped worrying about how you looked, how you sounded, whether you were likable. And in that space, the real you woke up. The version of you that doesn't need permission, doesn't need approval, doesn't apologize for taking up space. This is the version that the greatest men in history understood. They knew that power begins when a man stops needing to be liked, because when you need to be liked, you're controllable. People can use your desire for acceptance against you. They can guilt you. They can pressure you. They can manipulate you into doing things that don't serve you. They can make you do their bidding. But when you've spent enough time alone, when you've faced yourself in complete silence, you become immune to that manipulation. You stop moving based on what feels good socially. You start moving based on what's actually right for you, based on your values, based on your vision, based on your authentic purpose. That's the hidden version of you, the one that only shows up when the crowd disappears. And here's what most people don't realize. That version is stronger. It doesn't panic when left alone. It doesn't fall apart without constant reassurance. It doesn't need to fill silence with pointless noise and endless scrolling. It sits in the discomfort and waits. It observes, it plans, it thinks strategically about what it actually wants from life. Solitude is where you meet the man you're supposed to become, not the one society trained you to be, not the one your parents expected you to be, not the one your peers want you to be, the one who was buried under years of trying to fit in, the one who was suppressed by 1,000 little compromises. And once you meet that version of yourself, everything changes. You walk different, you talk different, you move through the world with a quiet certainty that intimidates people because they can feel it. They can sense that you're no longer playing the game. You're not competing for their attention. You're not begging for a seat at their table. You've built your own table, and you're sitting there alone, completely fine with it. That's power. The hidden version, and it only comes out in solitude. So drop this affirmation in the comments if this is resonating with you. I become real alone. Now let's move to the second dark power lesson. And this one is crucial because most men get this completely wrong. Solitude is strategy, not loneliness. Let me clear something up right now, because this distinction changes everything. Solitude and loneliness are not the same thing. Not even close. Loneliness is what happens when you're surrounded by people but feel disconnected. When you're in a relationship but feel unseen. When you're at a party but feel invisible. Loneliness is the pain of wanting connection and not having it. It's passive. It's something that happens to you. Solitude is different. Solitude is a choice, a deliberate decision to step back, to pull away, to create space between you and the noise. Loneliness is weakness. Solitude is strategy. And this is where most men get it twisted. They confuse isolation with rejection. They think if they're alone, it means nobody wanted them, so they avoid it. They keep themselves constantly surrounded, constantly distracted, constantly plugged into other people's energy. They fill their schedule so completely that they never have to sit with themselves. They're running from solitude like it's something dangerous. But the strategic man knows better. He steps away not because he's running from people, but because he's running toward clarity. Because here's the truth that nobody talks about. Most people don't help you think. They interrupt your thinking. They bring their stress into your space. They dump their problems on your table. They talk about nothing important for hours and call it bonding. They want your attention but don't value your time. And while you're sitting there nodding along, pretending to care about their drama, your goals are collecting dust. Your plans are sitting unfinished. Your mind is cluttered with their noise. Your potential is being wasted. Solitude gives you distance, and distance creates perspective. When you step back from people, you start to see patterns you couldn't see up close. You see who actually respects your time and who wastes it. You see which relationships give you energy and which ones drain you dry. You see the habits you picked up from others that aren't even yours. You see the opinions you borrowed instead of forming. You see the dreams you abandoned to please someone else. Perspective creates control because once you see clearly, you can act deliberately. You stop reacting to every text, every call, every invitation. You stop saying yes out of guilt. You stop showing up to things you don't care about just to avoid feeling left out. You start protecting your time like it's the most valuable thing you own because it is. Your time is your life. Your time is your future. Your time is the only currency that actually matters. The ancient strategists understood this. They knew that a leader must know when to engage and when to withdraw. He must not be so available that he becomes common, so predictable that he becomes boring, so accessible that he becomes worthless. The same applies to you. When you're always around, always available, always responsive, you become normal, ordinary, forgettable. But when you're selective about where you give your time and energy, when you're strategic about who gets access to you, suddenly you become valuable. People start to respect your time because you respect your time. People start to want to be around you because you're not desperate for them to be around you. People start to pursue you because you're not pursuing them. This is strategy. This is the power that comes from understanding that solitude is not a punishment, but a tool. It's a weapon you can use to build the life and the presence that actually matters. Drop this affirmation in the comments. My time is my power. The third dark power lesson is understanding that solitude builds unbreakable confidence. Most men are chasing confidence from external sources. They want someone to tell them they're good enough. They want validation from strangers on the internet. They want approval from people they don't even respect. They're building their confidence on sand, on other people's opinions, on fleeting moments of praise. And that's why their confidence is fragile. It breaks the moment someone criticizes them. It shatters when they face rejection. It collapses when they're alone with their thoughts. But there's a different kind of confidence, a real kind. The kind that doesn't depend on anyone else's opinion. The kind that gets stronger the more time you spend alone. This is the confidence that comes from knowing yourself, from facing yourself in complete honesty, from building something real with your own hands. When you spend time in solitude, you're forced to be honest about who you are, your real abilities, your real limitations, your real potential. There's nowhere to hide. There's no one to impress. So you either accept yourself or you don't. And when you accept yourself, when you stop running from your own truth, something shifts. You become confident, not because someone told you to be, but because you know yourself. You've tested yourself. You've faced yourself. You've discovered what you're actually made of. This is the confidence that the greatest men in history possessed. They spent time alone. They studied. They thought deeply. They questioned everything. And when they emerged, they had a confidence that couldn't be shaken because it wasn't based on anyone else's validation. It was based on genuine self-knowledge. Here's the thing about this kind of confidence. When you're truly confident in who you are, you don't need to prove it to anyone. You don't need to brag about your accomplishments. You don't need to post your success on social media for validation. You just know, and that knowing shows. People feel it, they sense it, they respect it, they're drawn to it, because real confidence is magnetic. It's quiet, it's powerful, it doesn't need to announce itself. And the only way to build this real confidence is through solitude. through the hard work of facing yourself, through the discipline of building something real while no one's watching, through the courage of being completely alone with your thoughts and not running away. Drop this affirmation in the comments. I am confident in myself alone. The fourth dark power lesson is this: solitude is where focus becomes a superpower. In today's world, everyone is distracted. Everyone's attention is fragmented. Everyone's trying to do 10 things at once while checking their phone 50 times a day. And that fragmentation is why most people fail. They can't focus. They can't go deep. They can't do the real work that builds something great because they're scattered. Their energy is scattered. Their attention is scattered. Their mind is scattered. But when you step into solitude, when you create space away from distractions, something changes. Your focus becomes laser-like. Your mind becomes clear. Your energy becomes concentrated. You're not divided between 100 different things. You're completely present with what matters. And when you can give your complete, undivided attention to something, you become dangerous. You stop just trying. You start actually building. You stop just talking about your goals. You start making real progress on them. Think about the most successful people you know, the ones who actually accomplish something meaningful. Do you know what they all have in common? They understand the power of focused time. They protect their solitude. They create space for deep work. They understand that you can't build something great while scrolling through social media. You can't create something meaningful while responding to every text message. You can't achieve something extraordinary while your attention is divided among 1,000 different distractions. The most dangerous men are the ones who can give you their complete focus when they're with you, but then completely disconnect and focus on their goals when they're alone. This is the man that builds empires. This is the man that creates real change. This is the man that accomplishes what everyone else just talks about. And he does it because he understands that focus and solitude is the difference between success and failure. While everyone else is distracted, he's focused. While everyone else is scattered, he's concentrated. While everyone else is wondering if he'll succeed, he's building success one focused hour at a time. And here's the beautiful part. Nobody sees it happening. While he's in isolation, people think he's disappeared. They think he's given up. They think he's lost his edge. But he's not lost. He's sharpening. He's turning every hour into progress, every day into growth, every month into transformation. When he comes back, when he reemerges, he's not the same person who left. He's sharper, stronger, more focused, more dangerous, because he uses time the way it's meant to be used, not as a distraction, as a weapon. So ask yourself right now, are you controlling your time, or is your time controlling you? Are you using solitude to build, or are you filling every moment with noise to avoid yourself? Are you reacting to life, or are you creating it? The answer to those questions will determine everything. Drop this affirmation in the comments. My time builds me. The fifth dark power lesson is understanding that solitude teaches emotional mastery. Most men are slaves to their emotions. They feel something and they react. They get angry and they blow up at someone. They feel sad and they spiral into depression. They feel anxious and they make bad decisions. Their emotions are running the show. They're not in control. Their emotions are in control. But when you spend time in solitude, you develop a different relationship with your emotions. You start to observe them instead of being controlled by them. You notice that anger comes and goes, that sadness rises and falls, that anxiety peaks and then subsides. You realize that your emotions are not you. They're just experiences moving through you. And once you understand that, you gain power over them. You can feel anger without acting on it. You can feel sadness without being consumed by it. You can feel fear without letting it paralyze you. This is emotional mastery, and it's only developed in solitude. When you're around others, you're managing their emotions too. You're responding to their energy. You're adjusting based on what they need from you. But in solitude, it's just you and your inner world. You're forced to face your emotions head on. You can't distract yourself with other people's drama. You can't numb yourself with external validation. You just have to sit with what's inside you. And when you can sit with your emotions without running away, you become unshakable. Think about the men who changed the world, the ones who made a real difference. What do they all have in common? They had control over their emotions. They could feel deeply but respond strategically. They could be passionate about their vision but calm in their execution. They could care about their mission but remain unattached to the outcome. They had emotional mastery, and that mastery came from time alone, from deep work with their own inner world, from the discipline of facing themselves and their feelings every single day. When you have emotional mastery, people can't control you with emotions anymore. They can't guilt you into doing things you don't want to do. They can't shame you into compliance. They can't manipulate you with their anger or their sadness, because you're no longer enslaved to emotions. You're in control of them. And that's power. That's freedom. That's what solitude builds. Drop this affirmation. My emotions serve me, not the other way around. The sixth dark power lesson is this. Solitude reveals your actual values versus the values you've borrowed. Most men are living a life that's not actually theirs. They're pursuing goals that other people set for them. They're living out dreams that their parents had for them. They're chasing validation from people they don't even respect. They're climbing a ladder that's leaning against the wrong wall, and they don't even realize it because they've never been alone long enough to ask themselves the hard questions. In solitude, you can't run from those questions anymore. You're forced to ask yourself, what do I actually want? Not what my parents want from me. Not what society expects. Not what would make other people proud. What do I actually want? What matters to me? What's worth my time? What's worth my energy? What's worth my life? These are uncomfortable questions because often the answers reveal that you've been wasting your time, that you've been pursuing things that don't matter to you, that you've been living someone else's life. But that revelation is powerful because once you know what you actually value, you can start building a life around those values. You can make decisions that align with what matters to you instead of what matters to other people. You can say no to things that don't serve your vision. You can focus your energy on what's actually important to you. This is freedom. This is what solitude builds. The men who accomplish great things, they know their values. They know what matters to them. They know what they're willing to sacrifice for and what they're not. They've spent time alone asking themselves the hard questions. They've figured out who they actually are, separate from other people's expectations. And then they've built their life around that truth. Their decisions are consistent. Their actions are aligned with their vision. Their life has integrity because the inside matches the outside. When you're living according to your actual values instead of borrowed values, everything changes. You become more focused because you're not chasing 100 different things. You become more powerful because you're not divided against yourself. You become more effective because your energy isn't wasted on things you don't care about. You become more authentic because you're finally being honest about who you are. Drop this affirmation in the comments. I live by my values, not others' expectations. And now we get to the seventh and final dark power lesson. The man who is comfortable alone is untouchable. Let me tell you the final truth about solitude. The most dangerous man is not the loudest. He's not the most aggressive. He's not the one who's always in your face demanding attention. The most dangerous man is the one who doesn't need you. The one who's comfortable in his own company. The one who doesn't chase approval. The one who doesn't fear rejection. The one who doesn't beg for connection. He's dangerous because he's independent, and society cannot control a man who doesn't need it. Think about how society controls people. It uses shame, guilt, fear of being left out, fear of being judged, fear of being alone. It tells you that if you don't fit in, you're a loser. If you don't have a big social circle, something's wrong with you. If you're not constantly connected, you're missing out. If you spend too much time alone, you're weird. And most men believe that. They internalize it. They let that fear control their decisions. They stay in relationships they hate because being alone feels worse. They keep friends who drain them because being friendless feels worse. They chase approval from people they don't even respect because being ignored feels worse. They're trapped not by chains, but by fear. Fear of solitude. But the man who's comfortable alone, he's free. He doesn't need a relationship to feel complete. He doesn't need a crowd to feel confident. He doesn't need constant validation to feel valuable. He's enough just as he is by himself. And that terrifies society because a man who doesn't need society can't be controlled by it. You can't pressure him with social expectations. You can't guilt him into doing things he doesn't want to do. You can't threaten him with rejection because rejection doesn't scare him anymore. He's already spent time alone. He's already faced himself. He's already built a life that doesn't depend on others. So what can you take from him? Nothing. What can you threaten him with? His freedom is already complete. What can you use against him? He's not motivated by your approval anymore. That's power. That's freedom. That's what the greatest minds in history meant when they talked about the independent spirit, the one who doesn't depend on anyone for their strength, the one who can stand alone if necessary, the one who doesn't collapse when abandoned. That person is untouchable. And you can become that man, not by avoiding people, not by being antisocial, not by cutting everyone off and becoming a hermit, but by being so comfortable in your own skin, so confident in your own value, so strong in your own presence that you don't need anyone to complete you. You enjoy people, you value relationships, you appreciate connection, but you don't need it to survive. And that subtle shift from needing to enjoying, it changes everything. When you need people, you're desperate, you're clingy, you're weak. People sense it. They take advantage of it. When you enjoy people, you're relaxed, you're confident, you're strong. People respect it. When you need approval, you're anxious. You're always performing. You're always worried. You're exhausting. When you enjoy approval, you're free. You take it when it comes. You're fine when it doesn't. The man who is comfortable alone doesn't avoid the world. He just doesn't depend on it. He enters rooms knowing he'll be fine whether people like him or not. He starts conversations without fear of rejection. He pursues goals without needing permission. He makes decisions based on what's right, not what's popular. And people feel that. They sense that he's different, that he's not playing the same game everyone else is playing, and it makes them respect him, fear him, want to be around him, because independence is rare. Most men are followers, pleasers, approval seekers, but the man who's comfortable alone is none of those things. He's a leader. Even when he's quiet, he's powerful. Even when he's still, he's untouchable. Even when he's alone, he's complete. That's the final dark power lesson. That's what solitude builds. Not isolation and loneliness. Not someone who can't connect with others, but someone who can connect from a place of strength instead of weakness. Someone who gives to others from abundance instead of from desperation. Someone who chooses people instead of needing them. That's the man who changes the world. So let me bring this all together for you. Solitude is not weakness. It is refinement. It is the fire that burns away everything fake, everything borrowed, everything weak. When you embrace solitude, you shed the version of yourself that society created. You discover the version that was inside you all along. You build mental dominance. You develop emotional independence. You gain strategic control. You focus your energy on what matters. You master your emotions. You clarify your values. You become untouchable because you're no longer dependent on others for your sense of self. The greatest men in history understood this. They didn't rise by blending in. They didn't become influential by being popular. They withdrew. They observed. They studied human nature in silence. They built their vision in isolation, and they returned with clarity sharp enough to change the world. That's what solitude does. It gives you clarity when the world is confused. It gives you strength when everyone else is weak. It gives you vision when everyone else is blind. If you want unbreakable strength, walk alone. If you want clarity, choose silence. If you want power, detach long enough to build it. Disappear for a while. Not because you're running from the world, but because you're building a version of yourself that the world isn't ready for yet. Sharpen your mind while they dull theirs with distractions. Strengthen your will while they weaken theirs with comfort. Focus your energy while they scatter theirs, chasing approval. When you return, you won't need to announce yourself. They'll feel it. They'll see it in how you move, how you speak, how you carry yourself. They'll sense that something changed, that you're not the same man who left, because the man who masters solitude masters everything. He masters his emotions, his time, his thoughts, his future. He doesn't react. He creates. He doesn't follow. He leads. He doesn't beg. He chooses. And that man is unstoppable. So I'm going to leave you with this. Stop fearing silence. Stop running from being alone. Stop filling every empty moment with noise. Stop scrolling through your phone when you should be building something real. Sit with yourself. Face yourself. Build yourself. In the quiet, you'll find the answers you've been looking for. In the solitude, you'll become the man you were meant to be. And when you walk back into the world, you won't be asking for a place at the table. You won't be begging for a seat. You'll be building your own table. You'll be inviting the people you choose to join you. That's the power of solitude. That's the freedom that comes from mastering yourself. Now, if this video hit you differently, if you felt something shift while watching it, if you recognized parts of yourself in what I'm saying, I need you to take action. Hit that like button right now. Don't just passively watch. Engage. Show the algorithm that this matters. Share this video with someone who needs to hear it. Someone who's been drowning in noise. Someone who's been running from solitude. Someone who's been chasing approval. Someone who's ready to build something real. Share this because you have the power to change someone's trajectory. And subscribe to this channel if you want more lessons like this. Raw, real, unfiltered. Lessons that aren't designed to make you comfortable. Lessons that are designed to make you powerful. Because that's what this channel is about. It's about showing you the truth. It's about giving you the tools to build yourself into the strongest version you could be. It's about creating a community of men who understand that power comes from noise. It comes from silence. That strength doesn't come from other people's approval. It comes from your own self-respect. That freedom doesn't come from fitting in. It comes from having the courage to stand alone. So right now, commit to one thing. Tomorrow morning, before you check your phone, before you get caught up in the noise of the world, spend 30 minutes alone. Just you and your thoughts. No distractions. No phone. No music. No podcasts. Just silence. Use that time to face yourself. Ask yourself those hard questions. What do I actually want? What am I building? Who am I when no one's watching? And make a decision. Make a real decision to start using solitude as a tool instead of running from it as a punishment. The change won't happen overnight, but if you stick with it, if you protect that solitude, if you use it to build yourself, you'll be a different man in 90 days. You'll be unrecognizable in a year. You'll be unstoppable in 2 years. That's the power of consistency. That's the power of solitude. That's the power of choosing yourself first. So comment below. Tell me what you're going to do during your 30 minutes of solitude tomorrow. Tell me what questions you're going to ask yourself. Tell me how you're going to use this time to build. And let me know in the comments what resonated most with you from this video. Was it one of the 7 lessons? Was it the idea that solitude is strategy, not loneliness? Was it the understanding that the man comfortable alone is untouchable? Drop it in the comments. Let's build a community of real conversations, not fake engagement, but actual people having real discussions about becoming their best selves. And remember this, the man who masters solitude masters everything. That could be you. That should be you. Return different because the world doesn't need another person seeking approval. The world needs leaders. The world needs men who know who they are. Men who stand alone. Men who are unbreakable. Men who create instead of consume. Men who build instead of follow. That man is out there. That man is waiting to be built inside you. And it all starts with one decision, the decision to embrace solitude, to stop running, to start building, to become the strongest version of yourself. Make that decision today. Commit to that 30 minutes tomorrow. Protect your solitude, build your empire, and come back and tell us about the transformation. Because your success story might be the thing that changes someone else's entire life. And that's how we build a better world. One man at a time, one decision at a time, one moment of solitude at a time. I'll see you in the next video. Now go and become unstoppable.